Welcome to a joyous Richmond Kickers Weekly. My name is Darryl Grove, and I'm joined by a man who's celebrating a Richmond Kickers win. His name is Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hey, buddy. How you doing?
Pretty good. I mean, better than I've been doing for the past, 8 weeks.
That is true. We were not at the game at the stadium live. We were at How Did This Get Made here in Richmond.
Yeah.
But we did check the scores, I believe, like before, during, and after the live show, as well as at dinner that night.
Yeah, well done to whoever updates the Richmond Kickers Twitter. I'm not sure it's Patrick anymore.
It's
I think
Patrick.
You might have.
It's got to be
I think
Patrick.
He's outsourced.
You think he's outsourced?
Yeah, I think he's got a staff. But yeah, whoever did the Richmond Kickers Twitter kept us updated with the Kickers game.
They did,
yeah.
And we appreciate it because then we were then able to find out that they scored a goal in the 70th minute, which would go on to be the winner.
First time. So there's 6 games without a goal previous to this. So this really feels like a big thing. Like the floodgates have opened, maybe.
Does it?
Good for us also is at the Carpenter Centre, where we were watching the live How Did This Get Made, there was air conditioning.
I was wearing a long sleeve shirt, and the walk from this office to the Carpenter Center is literally 2 blocks, I think?
It might be a block and a half.
Yeah. In that time, I had to take the long sleeve shirt off because it was that hot. So the idea of then going into an air conditioned room for quite some time, slightly different than when it felt like 105 degrees on the field, apparently.
So it was 96 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff, feels like 105, which I think really informs the conditions of this game. Obviously, everybody was melting.
They were. I'm going to jump to this, though. That's why. I know Dennis Chin made USL League One Team of the Week. My MVP for this game, Kickaroo.
Yes!
Yep.
Whoever is inside that Kickaroo costume, I've never met them.
We hope it's still alive.
They are an absolute hero for managing to get through Saturday's game. Right?
Spoilers for The Prestige upcoming, but if you haven't seen a Christopher Nolan movie from like a decade ago, that's on you. But I do
have seen it also.
I do now wonder if maybe there were 2 different people playing Kickaroo, and they'd go into like locker room at halftime and change it up real quick, and then somebody else would come back out and look so energized out of nowhere.
What they should do.
Yes.
I do. From what I understand, Kickaroo does have like ice packs within the costume.
Yeah.
But even that isn't enough to sort of have a healthy, non-dangerous body temperature on a day like Saturday.
Also, I'm no science expert, but I believe
I can confirm.
How dare you? When it's 105 degrees outside, those heat packs, if you're in them or the ice packs, if you're in that suit for 2 hours, pretty much become room temperature / body heat temperature water bags by the end. So then you've also got 30 extra pounds weight on probably as a result.
You've got to figure out that trade-off.
Yeah.
Right? Speaking of figuring out that trade-off, the Richmond Kickers changed formation.
They did.
They went with... I'm actually not going to call it 5 at the back. I'm going to call it 3 at the back because the wing-backs were really, really advanced.
They were.
And I would call it a 3-5-2 when defending and maybe a 3-5-1-1 when attacking, with Joe Gallardo playing underneath Dennis Chin and really getting to roam around and exploit whatever space he wanted to exploit.
Absolutely. And I think that was, of the kind of many little changes that went into this, I think that was the biggest product, if you put it. Like, was that because you had the kind of midfield 3 of Troyer, Bolduc, and Mwape?
Yeah, which is weird, right? 2 wingers and a defender make up the central midfield, and it looked much better than when we normally have three regular midfielders.
But it makes sense because they're like you made that point when we were watching it, and I was very confused for a little while. And I think what I've kind of landed on is the idea that Bolduc and Mwape both fast and very technical.
Yes.
So I think you can use them in transition, but also they can kind of settle the ball and play quickly when you're trying to keep the ball moving through the middle.
And they're not afraid to run at people.
No.
Right? Like I know, like say Hughes and say Maxi Rodriguez, they're much more inclined to look for passes, whereas Bolduc and Mwape especially are much more inclined to maybe just have a go at this person and try and get past
Which
them.
I should say, like, it's not necessarily, and I'm not saying you even did it this way, but the way I heard that briefly was like a little bit of shade. It's like they're willing to go at people, whereas the other two look for passes.
Well, it's just like the type of player you are and what you're inclined to do. Like
True.
I'm more of the Hughes Rodriguez persuasion.
It just briefly felt like the soccer equivalent of bless her heart. That sort of thing.
I did not mean it that way. I'm really just trying to sort of explain why things looked a little bit different. And I think maybe the biggest change is Maxi Rodriguez not starting at the number 6 and Braden Troyer being there instead.
But I think, but even before we get to that, but those 3 in the middle, though, the biggest thing was because you then had 3 in the back, you could keep the ball moving, and Gallardo didn't have to drop in nearly as much as we've seen this season. And I think him being in a more free-floating role allowed him to overload one side or sort of combine with Dennis Chin if the kickers went long. And I think that sort of fluidity and flexibility is a big thing that's been missing from
He
Gallardo's
doesn't
game.
have to come so deep to touch the ball, right? He can be up there, and when he receives the ball, he's already in a more advanced position than he has been for the rest of the season.
Exactly.
I really liked it.
I did too.
I really, really liked it.
I wasn't sure how I felt going in, knowing that Maxi Rodriguez was not starting, knowing that he was on the bench. We assumed that was a tactical decision, not an injury situation.
We don't know. We probably should have looked into this before recording.
But if he's on the bench, it stands to reason that he's probably there. He's able to play.
Yeah.
So I look at this more so as he maybe has been relied upon to drop in between those two center backs and kind of help with possession and keep the ball moving.
Oh, and now there's 3 center backs. He doesn't need to.
He doesn't need to. And maybe it's just you can put Braden Troyer in there. Again, Braden Troyer, he's a warrior, as the Red Army will remind you. So I think his mobility, his kind of tenacity in the middle, it's just a little bit different from what Maxi Rodriguez is going to bring.
Yeah, I think he's just a bit rougher as well, in the good sense. So do you remember, didn't he get a yellow card? And you said the referee counted off
ticked off all the many times. Yep.
It's like you've had so many sort of rough tackles, you'll get a yellow card for essentially persistent fouling. But I think that's an upside. I think it adds some kind of steel and like toughness to the kicker's central midfield. That Maxi Rodriguez, not that he's a weak player, but he's definitely more of a passing midfielder. Yep. He's more of a Pirlo type, and I'd say Troy is more of a Gattuso type.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. But I think
big blonde Gattuso.
But I think also Maxi's inclination to drop in between the center backs, or maybe more specifically his instruction to drop between the two center backs, it sends them wide, but then that's the thing we're talking about, where then the other central midfielder drops a little bit deeper, and then Gallardo drops a little bit deeper, and then the forward drops, and suddenly
things get pulled backwards.
Exactly. And so I think just by having the 3 center backs, we have kind of argued for maybe a Kira Fitzgerald being a little bit more aggressive and stepping off his line to fill that kind of passing and moving spot. Instead, if you put 3 center backs back there, you put Conor Szymanski in the middle, that allows that ball to keep moving.
One other change, Maxi not starting means someone else got the captain's armband.
Oh,
Do you happen to see who was wearing it? I've just looked it up, so this wasn't knowledge I had. I just pulled up the USL League One page in front of me.
I'm looking at the team, and I don't know. My guess would be Gallardo. Why not?
I'll give you a hint. He only played 83 minutes.
Oh, is it Akira Fitzgerald then?
Yes.
Gotcha.
We'll be talking about those red cards later.
Interesting.
Yeah.
All right.
Maybe one fun thing on the formation. The other thing I liked is that because you had 3 centre-backs, they would spread out when we had the ball. Conor Szymanski being the central centre-back, he can hit a pass probably better than the other 2. So I quite liked him finding Gallardo or going direct to Chin, and Chin would hold it up or flick it on or lose it sometimes. But it meant the fullbacks were then the width, right? Thompson and Lockerbie were just up and down wide. They always were able to at least stretch the opposition out by being wide and not having to worry about coming back central like they do when it's a back 4. So one nice little change worth noting. All right, you ready to talk about the goal?
Yes.
What's up? Why are you laughing at me?
You know that I said that right before you said it.
No.
Yeah, I think you were checking to make
sure. I was looking for the captain.
Yep.
All right, well, now we've said it twice, so people definitely know it.
I'm just laughing because your wife brought this up on Saturday night, and I was like, oh, that's that moment.
Yeah, because she said sometimes I'm distracted when I'm looking at something else. Well, I'm glad we recorded this and we're going to publish it for everyone to hear. Let's talk about Dennis Chin's goal.
All right.
70th minute. It starts with a Joe Gallardo tackle / just stepping into someone.
Yes.
And part of this is like Gallardo's defensive contributions, right?
Yeah. I mean, he puts in the work rate. He tries to win the ball high.
Yeah.
And then
what I say is he puts in the work rate and he tries to win the ball high.
There we go. We want to keep it going? You want to keep the remix going?
No, it'll get annoying after a while.
But then we kind of see everything that he brings to the table, because that sort of like defensive presence, the fact that he's charging around trying to make a play, they end up getting the ball back, and then it's his kind of on-the-ball ability as well that we've come to appreciate. It's a great through ball in the kind of like the channel into the corner for Dennis Chin to run onto.
Yeah, it's from a weird angle, right? So no one really saw it come in.
Right.
And then Chin, I'm not sure how much he had to aim at once he receives the ball.
Yeah.
But he puts a cross into someone's shins and wins a corner kick for the Richmond Kickers.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. And I think
the camera angle doesn't show us who was in the box. So I don't know if he was crossing to no one or to like 7 people.
That's true. But I think even just with how sort of slow the Kickers have been in transitioning to attack this season, I'm okay with just Gallardo playing Chin into space and seeing what happens, because what ends up happening is Chin forces a corner and the Kickers score indirectly off the corner, but still it's the sort of aggressiveness going forward that maybe has been a little bit lacking that was there on the evening.
And so Kickers take the corner. It is not a short corner.
It is not.
And you saying you've noticed that maybe the Kickers have been moving
There's
away.
some variation,
They've been varying it up and not always taking it short. It's also not a great corner.
My guess would be that when the season is going well and it seems like everything is clicking, you have time to work on set pieces and do a bit more design set piece play and practice those short corners. when you haven't scored in 6 games and are on a losing skid or a winless streak, maybe you're focused on other things, and thus it's just put the ball in the box on corners. We'll figure it out later.
Well, I can't remember who takes it, but they put the ball in the box and it's immediately cleared by Orlando City B. I should have mentioned that was the opposition, right? That'll be in the episode title so people will know. It's immediately cleared by Orlando City B. Mwape picks it up, lays it out wide to Akwai.
He plays the Bolduc to Akwai.
Okay,
I did this exact same thing. That's the only reason why I noted it. Yep.
Bolduc out to Akwai on the left, which is weird, right? Because normally he's the right centre-back and he's on the right. I think it's just recycling from the corner kick. He ends up on the left wing. Akwai crosses it in. Dennis Chin meets it on the volley. Past the keeper, 1-0 Richmond Kickers.
But which is nice to say.
Nice to say. I think we didn't see all of Chin's movement, but we did see him, after Orlando cleared the ball, hang out in an offside position near Orlando's keeper, which I think was a very deliberate thing.
I think so too, especially because I think it's in the moment he spots that Mwape is bringing this ball down, the kickers are going to retain possession. So it's not I got to transition back to a defensive spot very quickly.
It's not coming straight back in.
But it's also the awareness of, but Orlando have all stepped out and they're trying to figure out where their marks are. So if you the forward, in this case Dennis Chin, stay offside, then you kind of wait and see where everybody sets up, and then you find that space and kind of occupy it before the ball is delivered. No one's really paying attention to you because
that's the thing. They're all looking the opposite direction. Right? Yeah.
But there's a thing with defenders, and it's really difficult because I have had this of if you're trying to keep an offside line and you look at a forward who's 5 yards up the field being offside. There can be that moment where you're just like, oh, they're offside. I don't need to ever worry about them again. They're offside. And suddenly,
they cease to exist.
Yeah, you've removed them from the equation. So then suddenly when they step back in and are now onside, things are different.
Which may explain why when the cross comes in from Akwai, I can't remember who was marking Dennis Chin, but he's 3-4 yards away from him,
No one
right?
is the answer, yes.
No one, yeah.
But whoever it is, I think it's because he had been marking Joe Gallardo, who I'm assuming took the corner and then hung out closer to the back post.
He was on the right when this came in.
Yeah. And so I think maybe he's paying attention to Gallardo, then suddenly realizes, oh no, their center forward is wide open in the box on this cross.
I'm going to call Dennis Chin's finish surprising, if only because it's not what I would expect a striker to do, because he kind of softly redirects it as opposed to hits the volley hard after the cross comes in. But we also saw earlier in the game he had a similar attempt from a similar angle when a ball came in. And I think this might just be a feature of Dennis Chin's game, is he tends to try to redirect crosses rather than smash them.
Yeah, but I think the bigger difference for me, though, is on this goal, he's redirecting it. He's not putting a lot of power behind it, but he's redirecting it while moving towards the ball. He's running at pace to try to make contact, and he does do that. The one you're talking about in the first half, he's more so adjusting to a deflected ball, and it's basically stationary.
So if you're standing, cross that pops up off deflection, right?
But he's kind of standing, hops back, probably should have done better with it, but I think if he is trying to do that sort of angled past shot, basically, you're not getting nearly as much power behind it because you're not moving to meet it. You're sort of adjusting to be able to meet it.
That's really interesting. I didn't think of it this way, but that absolutely makes sense to me.
There we are.
All right.
Physics.
So 1-0 Richmond Kickers.
Got a C+ in that class.
In the 70th minute.
Maybe a C.
10 minutes later, it all gets crazy.
It does.
It absolutely gets crazy. So it's Orlando win a corner kick. Akira Fitzgerald, kicker's keeper, picks up the ball. And then Bagru comes over to get the ball from Fitzgerald, and it turns into a little tussle, right? Because I think Bagru grabs the ball, but then puts a bit of a shoulder into Fitzgerald as almost like a punishment for holding onto the ball too long. Fitzgerald pushes him back, and then it all goes wild. Everybody charges in, including Herrera, the Orlando keeper, who runs quite literally the length of the field to get involved in this ruckus.
Yeah, you gotta back your teammates, I guess.
I guess so.
A couple things. I think Fitzgerald, I do think it's a bit of gamesmanship here. I don't think he's actually asking. But when that ball goes out of bounds, it sort of is like Bagru running in, ball gets poked beyond the touchline, so it will be a corner.
Yeah.
And I think
it's a dangerous position, actually, right?
It is, and I think that's part of why Fitzgerald does what he does, because it kind of deflects off the advertisements behind the goal. Fitzgerald is able to pick it up, and he does that sort of where's it going? What is it, ref? But he's holding the ball, trying to have that conversation. And I think Bagru knows what he's doing, gets the ball, but I think you're absolutely right. Yeah. It's that neck shove. Probably a few words in there, probably not very flattering or complimentary words.
Yeah.
Some might even say insulting or aggressive or possibly hostile and cursing. Either way, I think that's what really kicks it off. And then the fact that they kind
Florida's sinking.
Exactly. And that somehow made Fitzgerald angry. But yeah, I think the two of them.
Florida man fails to complete cross.
All right. That's the least terrible thing that Florida man has done in some time, so that's good. But yeah, basically I think it's that shove, then the fact that they go back at each other is maybe where the red cards come from. Because truth be told, we watched the replay, we watched it like a couple different times. It's really difficult given the camera angle and you're not really close up. You don't get a bunch of different perspectives on it.
Big melee that happens
and there's
over by the advertising board.
At least 20 players in a 10-yard space. It's tough to know exactly what goes on.
Well, the other guy that gets sent off, apart from Bagru and Fitzgerald, is Mendoza, who we do see come in from behind and put his hands on Fitzgerald's neck area. I wouldn't say he hit him. It wasn't a strike. It was just like he got his hands in there, right?
I think if any of these red cards is justified, it's that one. Because Mendoza, I mean, he comes out of shot, and he wasn't involved. We didn't see him getting set for the corner or anything like that. Yeah. So he has to run some distance. And I think if you're the referee and the AR who's kind of wades into the middle of this one,
it's the AR who's the closest to all this action. It's the AR that essentially explains what happened to the ref, and then the ref gives out the 3 red cards. Right. So we've got to assume this is all based on the AR's perspective.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think Mendoza. I mean, not all, because the referee still has agency here and is also involved. But I think that's a big part. Mendoza comes running in, and if you're a player running in 30 or 40 yards, you can make an argument that maybe you're like, oh, I just want to protect my players. But if you're protecting your teammates, you don't run to the opposition goalkeeper and put your hands at his neck.
Yeah.
That is where I think, and the fact that Mendoza then gets out of there pretty quickly and has to be waved all the way back over, I think he's aware that maybe he's gotten a bit too aggressive.
He shouldn't be sort of a get in, get out kind of
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
So my opinion on this is that none of these should have been red cards. I think a yellow, because they're all listed as violent conduct. I'm not sure any of this crosses the threshold I would set if I was a ref for violent conduct. Because essentially it's a push and a shove and maybe a hand around the neck, but not like a full throttle, right? Not a choking, or no striking. No one actually threw a punch. I kind of feel like yellow cards would have been enough to just warn everybody, hey, settle down.
I mean, a couple things to play referee's advocate, because I'm not even sure how much I necessarily agree with this, but a few things. One, we've complained before about you can't put your hands on a player on an opposition player's face or neck. You can't do that. We got mad at the Mexico game. I forget who it was did that, but it was I think it was Guardado, where we were you can't just grab somebody by the neck. That's not allowed. So I think,
but that was a full hand around the throat, briefly Darth Vader-ish.
Yeah, but I guess now you're arguing nuance, whereas I'm saying usually I think you and I tend to be you did the thing that is a red card, you're going to get a red card. So you have to be prepared for
any
it. Any
hand-to-neck type stuff is as bad as maybe hand-to-face,
and when you
which is a thing that usually you'll get called striking, even if it's only a tap.
Exactly. Yeah. But when you come running in when there's already a scrum happening, you're certainly not running in to make the situation better. Okay. So I think that's one.
That's for Mendoza then.
Yeah. I think also it's worth noting that, as we've already said, Braden Troyer gets a yellow for accumulation of fouls. There's a few others in there where you can see the frustration from players. I've been kicked a lot. Why isn't that a card? Again, and it keeps happening. And I think so. There's some chippiness here, and maybe that's the referee trying to stamp down the authority, which isn't great because that's what yellow cards are supposed to be for. Yeah. But I think the third thing or fourth thing at this point is that they go back at each other. That Bagru and Fitzgerald don't just have that initial tussle. Referee comes over and says "Hey guys, calm it down." It's that then they go back. The whole team gets involved. Bagru has to be held back by 2 kickers players. Fitzgerald then goes back in and antagonizes. I'm guessing all of that factors into why the referee felt this was more than just 2 players kind of scrapping at each other. It was violent and it was out of control. I don't like that. Red cards.
All right, red cards. So we play the game out, 10 versus 9? Yep. Chin is subbed off for Joe Rice, who comes and replaces Akira Fitzgerald in goal. And Joe Rice, I assume, is going to be getting some games for the Richmond Kickers.
We assume.
Fitzgerald's going to get a ban, right? So pretty good for him. He just graduated VCU. Now he's playing some pro soccer.
Yeah. He's got a couple minutes already. He'll at least get 1 game. I don't know how many. If it's 1 game, if it's 3 games, if it's maybe 2.
Maybe for violent conduct, it usually leads to a longer ban, right? We'll find out when the USL disciplinary reports.
We will indeed. But we don't anticipate a goalkeeper being brought in on short-term basis.
I don't, because it's still a relatively short period. Yeah. Right? Even 3 games would be just 3 games, not a month to month kind of thing. And it's what you reserve keepers for, right? Yep. If you bring in another keeper, then you're saying, this guy was really interesting to watch. Yeah.
Maybe not, yeah.
So we look forward to more games for Joe Rice.
We do.
Kickers see the game out. They win 1-0. The important-ish thing is that this sees the Kickers leapfrog Orlando, and they are no longer the official worst team in USL League One. They are 9th instead of 10th. Orlando are down there. The Kickers are 2 points clear. If we're going to keep climbing this table, next team to catch is Forward Madison FC, Domingos, with 4 points behind them. So the long climb starts now.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. And the Kickers are away this weekend, I do believe.
Yep, Friday afternoon, 4 p.m., Toronto FC 2.
I mean,
they're going to a whole other country.
This kid's got to be home by curfew.
Yeah, so Friday, 4 p.m, Toronto FC 2. And then Saturday, August 10th. So there'll be a little break. Then Saturday, August 10th, away to Forward Madison. The first meeting with Forward Madison, somehow USL League One has kept these teams apart until the second half of the season.
Maybe trying to build the anticipation?
Yeah. Well, and then we are home to Toronto after that, and then away to Forward Madison again. So
All right.
Kickers are going to have
some familiarity.
A Groundhog Day. A Groundhog Day couple of weeks. But we're feeling more optimistic, right? We like the new formation. We like the fact the Kickers scored. We like the fact they didn't concede. So all these things are good, at least in the short term.
Sure.
Okay. You're waiting to pass judgment before you have more evidence. More evidence, right?
To be honest, I don't mean to be the downer here, but I mean, we're talking about a team that I think you and I both expected to be better than they are.
Yeah.
In terms of standings and quality of play. So, beating the other worst team in the league, it to me is okay, you did what's expected. Now keep doing that.
Yeah, it's the minimum, right? But they've met the minimum, and now
at least there's that.
Now we hope for some things to build on top
True.
of.
We do
All
indeed.
right.
We do indeed.
All right, Taylor. So thank you for reviewing this game with me.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening. And the faithful Red Army, after a win, please play us out.